Good evening, good evening. Happy Friday. So, guess what? It's been a long time since we've been together. There's been a lot of different things going on, and welcome to Managing Your Healthcare Benefits with Molly. So, hello, all of my guests. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for joining. And I just want to tell you, Happy New Year, because there's been a lot of people I have seen and I haven't seen since the new year has started. But guess what? I want to know, how are those 2025 benefits working out for you? Now, 24 to 25, things change every day as we live and breathe. But before we go any further, I promised I would give them a shout out. I want to give a big shout out to Starbucks on West End Avenue because I stopped in there at 7:30 p.m. because I needed a fresh cup of coffee to rejuvenate and relax and relate and get ready for this afternoon because we're going to have a big conversation. Now, I know a lot of you all are used to me talking about healthcare benefits. So, what I want you to do is stay tuned because I've been talking to a lot of people and a lot of guests, and we are getting prepared for 2025. I have an oncologist scheduled, I have a mental health professional scheduled. So, we have a lot of different things that we are getting ready for in 2025 with community health partners. But I just want to change gears for a little bit. And what I want to talk about is what is going on in Memphis and really what is in the best interest for our children. A lot of people have their opinions, pros and cons, good and bad, as to what is in the best interest for our children. Now, what I want everyone to understand is, y'all know me. I'm just going to call a spade a spade. But right now, this particular interesting conversation and topic that we have going on in Memphis, it really does not apply to me. However, I care about the children, right? It does not matter what anybody says, right, wrong, or indifferent, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. We care about what is important for the children. Now, everybody knows I love my grandbabies, Sam and Mark. Hey, Sam and Mark. Everybody knows I love my grandbabies, Sam and Mark. And they are fortunately, with all the things we have going on right now, my grandbabies are in Germantown School District. However, the same good things that go on for my grandbabies in Germantown School District, I want those same good things to go on for other children in other school districts. So, I just have some concerns, whether that was the right thing, yay, nay, good or bad. We need to talk about what's really going on with the children's interest in Shelby County schools. So I watched the school board meeting. Yes, I did. And I saw what happened. Oh, I'm just flabbergasted that the fact that the children are not priority. When do the children become priority? And just for the record, I have several friends who are educators, and several of my friends who are educators, they did share with me that they had some concerns with the release of Dr. Fagan. Even before Dr. Fagan was released, I only heard all of my friends who were educators, I heard nothing but good things about Dr. Fagan. Now, with the change of leadership, we all have to be respectful and understand there's always going to be some things you get along with that change in leadership. And on the flip side, there's always going to be things that you don't agree with that change in leadership. But at the end of the day, were the changes that she made in the best interest of the children? A, number one, and B, number two, was letting her go in the best interest of the children. Now, I'm not a professional educator, but I am a professional Starbucks drinker. And what I decided to do was I decided to go out and reach out to one of my friends who is a professional educator, and I decided to invite him on the show tonight so we can talk about some things and we can just get some things clear, because there's just some things that I, Melissa, would like to know or would like to have a better understanding, to understand the real reason, the why behind the why, because at the end of the day, I have friends who are members of the school board. I have friends that are members of the political party. I have friends that are educators. And I just quite not have gotten a real answer as to the why behind the why that they decided to Dr. Fagan's go. So what I decided to do was to reach out to one of my friends who's a local educator, and I'm going to have him join us now. So what I want everybody to do is I want everybody to welcome Noah Nordstrom. And we all, hey Noah, thanks for joining me. And we all know Noah is a local educator. So before we jump into all of these millions of questions, because y'all know me, y'all know I got questions and I need answers as to what is in the best interest of these children. So Noah, before we jump in, let's go on and you tell us a little bit about yourself. Where I know where you teach and that you speak Spanish and all that good kinds of stuff. So let's go ahead on and give everybody a little bit of tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Noah.
Hey everybody, my name is Noah Nordstrom and I'm a Spanish teacher at Overton High School. And yeah, I've been involved in politics. I ran for state representative last year in my district out in the East Memphis, Germantown area. And so I've also just been really involved in this fight for keeping Dr. Fagan's and continuing with her vision, what she's been doing in Memphis Shelby County schools. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit about who I am.
So, before we actually get into all of the questions, there are several people that's telling Noah, hi, thank you. And we always love questions. So if you have any questions you want to talk about, just throw your questions in the chat and we'll begin to talk about those. But one thing I have noticed about education in Memphis is that it seems to be okay, but it's not important. So I'm going to tell you something interesting. I'm a native New Orleanian and I relocated to Memphis in 1994, right? And when I came to Memphis back in 1994, one thing they had, I think it used to be the Mid-South Fair or whatever the fair there was, Noah. There was a fair that would go on in Memphis. And every year they would give the kids a day off from school to go to the fair. And now, mind you, I like the fair just as much as the next person does. But what I had a really hard time comprehending way back in 1994, 95, before the Mid-South Fair left and went to Mississippi, I think it is, I believe I really had an interesting issue and concern with the fact that Memphis schools is failing. The school system was like, if they have 50 states, 52 states, however many states there are, I'm educated. I just don't know right now, but however many states there are, excuse me, Memphis was maybe number 49 of 50, but yet you're going to give the children a day off to go and play. So it's been a long time from 1994 to 1995 when I first arrived here that I really realized then so that there was a problem when the kids are let out of school to go play. And thank you, Lauren. She thought the fair that happened around Labor Day when they had kids a day off. Right. And that's a problem. I don't know how many people understand that or realize that, but that is a real problem. And so, Noah, as things change and tend to progress, eventually maybe the school system becomes important. So before, I know, Noah, this isn't in the list of questions, but I just thought about this as we're sitting here. If you could just, other than letting Dr. Fagan go, If
Mhm.
you could just say, what do you think right now is one big issue with the Memphis City schools? What would you say the number one issue is?
Mm. I think one of our biggest challenges is deferred maintenance. So we have school buildings that are decaying pretty heavily in a lot of areas, and there's not a real plan to actually maintain our buildings or to
Mm-hmm.
bring the ones that are already dilapidated back up to where they need to be. There's a lot of challenges, so it's hard to just narrow it down to one, but that can usually become a lot of things. If the heating is broken, the AC is broken, if you run into health challenges because of, buildings and stuff like that. So I think that would be one of the bigger issues we have to address.
Right. So let's go ahead on and jump into this because I see we have a lot of folks joining us. And make sure, don't forget to throw your questions or anything that you want to know and I to address this afternoon. Just go ahead on and let's just throw it out. So as we're talking about these questions, so everybody can understand where we are and where we're going with this. Um, like I said, I most of the people that I know were in support of Dr. Fagan, and the primary reason why I was in support of Dr. Fagan, like I said, I'm not an educator, but me myself, I believe in straightforward and direct, right? Business
Mhm.
is business and everything else is secondary. And unless I miss something because my grandchildren go to, unless I miss something because my grandchildren go to Germantown school districts, as I understand it, she came in there with a plan and she was straightforward and direct, and a lot of people have a problem with straightforward and directness. But I'm going to go ahead and throw our first question out at Noah into the audience. And y'all let us know what y'all think about these questions. So here we go, Noah. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's
All
go.
right, let's go. Number one. Can you explain why you support Dr. Fagans and what led to your conclusion?
Yeah, so I first met Dr. Fagans about a year ago when they were down to the three finalists. And I went to this event where we were all able to meet all three of them and ask them questions and kind of hear what their vision was for our district. So I went and I asked them questions, and I was really impressed with Dr. Fagans from the get go. I'm a teacher, I'm in the teachers union. I believe that it's important for us to make our voices heard, speak up about things and improving conditions. And we had a really great conversation about that. And she said that, talked about how she had been a teacher. And then as she's moving into these roles, that really prioritizing the well-being of teachers and making sure that we're supported so that we can give those resources to our students and give them the best education possible. That's really what her focus was. So I was impressed from there. But beyond just a first impression, I mean, she has said what she's going to do, and then she does it. Is what I
Mm-hmm.
really like about her. Just like you said, she's direct. So she came in, she spent 100 days literally going around listening to everybody because she knew she wasn't the expert. That the people who are in the classrooms every day and who are in our buildings every day are really the experts. So she came around and listened, and she made adjustments based on what we wanted to see. And so, starting in the summer, we saw a reduction in waste. We saw a lot of those resources moved back into our school buildings in the form of teacher pay increases, in the form of filling in the teacher shortage, reduced dramatically. She literally went traveling around the South finding people and recruiting them to move to Memphis to become teachers. Like that's how several teachers in my school ended up there this year. And so she just really is a powerhouse, and she did a lot to address those issues. And I'm sure we'll get more into it moving forward. So I'll just leave it there for now. But I was impressed by her, and I continue to be impressed by her.
So one thing that's crucial that you said, a lot of people don't know, and for my first time viewers, thank you for joining. A lot of people don't realize is that I have a Lean Six Sigma black belt, and one of the key things we focus on with Lean Six Sigma is eliminating waste, right? And
Right.
so can I ask, and I'm gonna just this is, you know what? This is a rhetorical question. You do not have to answer this, but I'm just saying she went in, and it's my understanding is that she eliminated a lot of waste. So why did one school may have three or four assistant principal, or why did a lot of schools have these three and four assistant principals, where you had schools that were failing that didn't have the staff, but those schools that were adequately staffed had three and four of the same positions that were not needed. So there again, I said, when did the children become important? And the fact that you said she eliminated the waste,
Hmm.
that led to a lot. And Kale Moore, just for the record, I just want to show this particular comment from Kale Moore. This is a really good statement. I loved her because she presented a plan to telling them what she was going to do, and they chose her. So what makes it really sad is the fact is they knew what her plan was,
Hmm.
and they went with her, and they chose her. So when did her plan go awry, right? When did her plan go awry? Because she gave a plan, which is the first clue of Lean Six Sigma. Set a
Hmm.
plan, eliminate the waste, and then work the plan. What did she decided to do? But as we go in further into this, the next one, what specific actions or policies of hers do you believe were beneficial to the school district, Noah? And anybody else out there that's watching, please feel free to share your answers as well. And I'll be more than share them on the screen while Noah's going ahead and giving his answer.
Yeah, so let's jump a little bit more into that waste that she eliminated, because this really is one of the policies that I really admired from her. In June, it was announced that 1,000 positions at the central office would be shifted into our school buildings. And
Okay.
before, like I said, we were facing teacher shortages. We were also having shortages on the different support staff, family engagement specialists, thing like that. And so she offered all those people working at central office jobs in our school buildings, filling those vacancies, which I think is great. She saw that there were duplicated positions, that there were some unnecessary positions at a central office that weren't actually engaging with students, and she pushed people in that direction. And that was able to finance, like I said, teacher pay raises, which was awesome. We've also been investing a lot more in dealing with deferred maintenance, and my school has been a beneficiary of that. So we had the AC fixed over the summer, for example.
Mhm.
Another thing that I really liked is that she stopped trying to micromanage teaching. Before, there was kind of this approach of, all right, we're going to come in and we're going to tell you, and if you have your PBOs posted in 2 spots and here and there, and just if you make sure all the check boxes are done. It was really just about like, okay, when central office comes around, we just got to check all these little boxes because they're looking for busy work. And they weren't actually giving us resources as far as supporting teaching, giving us relevant PD, giving us any sort of um, resources that were helpful toward us. And so she did away with that. She said, no, you all are the experts. I want you all to have more creative leeway with designing your lessons. And we're going to actually, on the back end, be here to support you to have what you need. So my school was named as a soup school because it was rated as a D school, meaning we were able to get more access to tutors and more resources for dealing with, bringing our grades up at our schools. And it's working. Our school has raised up to a C, almost B level school. So, yeah, that's in short some of the policies that I like.
And one thing that is critical, and I'm going to say this because a lot of people may or may not know this, right? So, what I'm going to say is, I work in healthcare, right? That is my profession. Everything I do, I live and breathe in healthcare. I have a
Mhm.
nonprofit, but we're not going to get into that right now. But one of the things that I was working with is the fact vaccinations, right? So while the school board is sitting here criticizing Dr. Fagan to try to put a program together for the best interests of the children, one thing a lot of people fail to realize is you have a lot of people in the school system themselves that's not doing their job. I don't know, and I need to check my facts, but Prior to this school year starting, Shelby County was the number one county in the state, right? In the state that children were out of compliance with vaccinations. So Dr. Fagan is in here trying to put her game in place, trying to do what they need to do. But you have people, the principals, the school board, all of these people, excuse me, they are so busy criticizing Dr. Fagan. No one stopped to say, what can we do to help her, right? Nobody said, oh, you know what? While she's out here trying to make sure these children get education, just as important as it is to get education, it's just as equally important for those principals, those school board members who want to kick her out or get rid of her, make sure those nurses in those schools are making sure those children have their vaccinations. And when I come on in 2 weeks for the follow up to this, I'm going to let you know where Shelby County Schools is sitting as it relates to their vaccination. But we're going to go ahead on and jump into question number 2, Noah. So tell me, what specific actions or policies of hers do you believe were beneficial to the school district? She had so many.
Um,
Oh my gosh, yeah. Eliminate the
yes,
waste, number one. That
yeah. Eliminated the waste. Absolutely increased pay for our educators. I like these comments that are coming in because I think they really get to the amount of community and student and teacher engagement that she's been involved in. Again, culture there. That's another one. That's a huge part of it. A huge part of it, the fact is that, she was emailing us every week. We felt like a team. She was saying, here's our strategic goals, and she wasn't saying, oh, you're bad teachers, you need to do this and that. She said, no, we're working as a team. Here's our goals. She was inspiring us to be better teachers all the time. She was coming in, getting to know us, listening to the students, incorporating feedback really from all angles within our school system. And so I think it created a culture of teachers and students and administrators feeling supported rather than like micromanaged. Um, and I think it really brought out the best in a lot of people and it really inspired folks. I knew people who were going to retire last year that when she came in, they decided not to retire because they saw that the district was going places. They saw that the pay was increasing and that just the culture was shifting. And so I think those all were really beneficial.
And I don't think people realize how the shift in culture can shift the environment to shift to a better overall state for them all. And so just to change a culture, just to be able to change a culture, we can understand how that would lead to progress, because you have to change the culture, you have to change your mindset. And the
Mhm.
only way you can shift and change your mindset is to change a culture and be able to educate people more. So Noah, I'm going to throw this out there for you because somebody has a great question for you. I'm going to try to see it up there. Can you get it?
Yeah, I was just reading that on the side there. I'm at the very end here. So, a manager acting as behavioral assistant. Yeah, so I think basically to sum up the question, it is, do we really think that shifting the 1,000 jobs was a good thing because maybe some people were put in roles that it wasn't their expertise, right? And so the one big emphasis that she brought was, filling those vacant teacher positions. That's one of the things I support the most. I met a lot of people who became teachers again, came back to the classroom, and I think that was helpful because from my perspective, I watched an entire Spanish class last year at my school not have a teacher. So they didn't learn anything for an
Wow.
entire year. Yeah, because there was just a vacancy all year. And so this year that's not a vacancy, and all of our classes are learning. And so I see the point that you're making, and maybe some people were put in roles that wasn't ideal for them or wasn't as much of their expertise as the role before. And I'm not going to say that there was everything went smoothly in that process. I think it could have been announced earlier. I think there were some issues
Mhm.
people have with it, which I understand. So I'm not going to try to say that everything was perfect. But I think overall, if you're looking at a large scale impact, filling those teacher vacancies, cutting the waste that was there. I'm not saying all the positions were waste, right? Or that, the work wasn't valuable. But I think overall, if you look at the effects, it made things better. It made our school buildings, I guess, less vacant, right? And we had more services for students in our schools. So that's why I support it overall.
So I know I'm ready. Noah and I are ready because this next question, y'all let us have it. Cause Noah, the floodgates are getting ready to open, and just for everybody, I'm a chatterbox. Look, I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt. I love questions. So let's jump into question number 3, and y'all just let it flood in because we're ready. Y'all ready? Here we
I'm
go.
ready.
Here we go, Noah. Do you think the decision to terminate her was handled appropriately? Why and why not? And I know the chats are coming in, so y'all just let us know y'all thoughts while Noah is answering this one. So before you answer,
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna tell you
Mm-hmm.
I do not think it was handled properly. Okay. Because the first thing that I want to say, there is always a better way when it comes down to what's most important for the children. And I can honestly say, based upon what I saw, was it Monday or Tuesday? It was Tuesday. Based
Mm-hmm.
upon what I saw on Tuesday, there was a lot of personal feelings that was involved in that. There was a lot of personal feelings that was involved in that. That was a lot of because I said so. There's a lot of inexperienced people who are on the school board who may or may not understand. I have to question whether or not a lot of people who are on the school board understands education as a whole. And you know what? I'm Noah, while you answer this question, Samantha, I'm going to show your response. Bam, I like Samantha's response. Samantha, I don't know who you are, but Samantha, I like your response. And Noah, and before, go ahead and answer, Noah. Then Stephanie, I'm going to show your response after. But Noah, what do you think? What do you think, Noah?
100% they railroaded her. And the sad thing is, now that all this is coming out, we know that some of these newly elected school board members were elected with this in mind, and that they've been coming for her job since the moment they got on the school board. And so to say that she was treated fairly is just such a ridiculous statement. I've seen people who don't like her that said she was not treated fairly, right? So December 16th, we get a notification. The whole city gets the notification that we are having a meeting on the December 17th to fire her. And that was the first public announcement of this. And clearly, the 5 members of the board that wanted to fire her had met and had spoken and had collaborated about this behind closed doors, which is not proper or legal.
Mm-hmm.
But they did it anyway. The other 4 members had not been notified. Dr. Fagans herself had not been notified. They found out with the general public. First of all, that wasn't right. The way they tried to go about this and just fire her like that with a very weak resolution. And then when they went to speak about the resolution, they mentioned everything but the resolution. The resolution had nothing to do with communication problems, but they got up there and started complaining about, oh, she doesn't email me enough. She doesn't do this, that, and the other. And that was completely irrelevant to the accusations that were actually made on paper. So what they tried to do that night was wrong, so much so that they had to delay it. People were so mad. And then even, with the month in between, what happened wasn't right. The day after Christmas, Joyce Coleman released a statement saying, oh, I'm still going to fire her. And they started digging their heels, and they weren't listening to the community. Her and several others, they blocked those of us who had differing opinions, and literally, like, on Facebook and our numbers, they wouldn't listen, they wouldn't speak, they wouldn't engage with people. And so I just think for so many reasons, what I said included, like, this process was wrong.
Right. So I want to talk about Jennifer Hawkins. So Jennifer Hawkins said she think there should have been a closed door conversation at best. So whatever happened to a PIP, you know, an action plan? We're going to put on a plan of action because at the end of the day, just to do this in midstream during the middle of the year, are we really looking at what's in the best interest of the children? Because how do I say this? I want to say this without offending too many people, but
Go ahead. It's
some
fine.
people are just on the school board, and I'm sure I'm gonna get some phone calls tomorrow, but that's okay. And I'm sure my nonprofit is gonna get some of its money taken back, but that's the risk I'm willing to go on. And I'm just gonna say, unfortunately, some people are on the school board because they couldn't get elected to any other position, or or they're on the school board because it was the lack of a few people who didn't know what's going on. And so many years ago, we are I was in college, and I can't, for the lack of me, I can't remember the subject, but whatever the subject was, it indicated that if you wanted to be in politics, the best place for a woman to start is on the school board, right? But I'm going to save that for later. But and I just want to share this comment. And so there are many people who are in agreement. Right is right and wrong is wrong. The way it was handled, right? Just to let some things play themselves out and have a resolve to say, is this in the best interest of the children? Because now I have to ask, and now I got to go do some research on who in the hell she's been replaced with. What plan do they have? Did anybody actually go to this lady and said, lady, we need to go back and modify the plan that you presented during the application process, because they all had a plan, right? And did anybody ever take two steps back and say, let us think about what we need to do? We can modify this plan, because that's what you do. Lean Six Sigma tells us plan, do, act, check. Plan, do, act, check. She planned, she did it, she acted upon it. Nobody went back and checked the plan and say, hey, you are deviating from the plan. Let's go back and let's check and let's see to make sure you're following the plan. Because what we all have to remember at the end of the day is the school board approved her plan. Now, keep in mind that in all fairness, the school board that's in place now were not the ones who approved her plan. But I'm going to go ahead on and play devil's advocate. When they got elected, did they even go back and look at her plan, right? Did they even go back and look at her plan? But we're going to jump on to question number 4. What do you think was her greatest achievements? And everybody out there in TV land, please feel free to throw in. What do you think was her greatest achievement during her tenure? Dr. Fagans.
I saw a comment on here that I want to just say is her best achievement. I'm trying to scroll back and see it. But someone said, for the first time as a teacher, I can live on one job.
Oh, I can go back and I can see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'm looking here, but yeah, I know somebody said it here a little while back, but that was my experience too. I mean, last year I was struggling to pay my bills, and like I feel stable, as a teacher now, which is great. So for me, that was one of the big accomplishments. But I think beyond just from the perspective of a teacher, bringing the community together in such a powerful way, actually, I think is one of her biggest achievements. Have you ever heard of a superintendent this popular? Maybe not since Willie Harrington. I think that she's finally stepped into a role and provided such a level of leadership that, people really respected her and liked her, and she had all this community buy-in with just being here 8 months. So I think that was pretty remarkable.
Right. And Stephanie, shout out to you because I had kind of something interesting to that today that happened to me at work. I work in Nashville. I work at a hospital. I'm in healthcare. I won't tell you where I work at. Just know I work in healthcare. And I had to actually had that same question today, Stephanie. Melissa, are you feeling the way you're feeling because this is personal? And I actually had to take two steps back and say, well, wait a minute. I need to do a self evaluation. And I really needed to ask the board members, are they really doing self evaluations and understand what's really oh, here's somebody say, here's one of her best efforts, her truancy efforts.
Yeah.
Is anything going on with actually, first of all, remove self? Let's remove self from this and stop worrying about because she is straightforward and direct and you don't want to hear what she has to say because she's straightforward and direct, and you don't want anybody speaking their mind. Well, what the hell? That's what's wrong with the world today. Nobody wants anybody to stand up and speak their mind. And that's what she did. And I really believe that was one of the biggest problems, is because she stood her ground. And a lot of people a lot of people have a problem with that, and they didn't like her. Let's
Hmm.
just jump on to our next question because this is great. Are there any particular challenges that she faced that you believe were not addressed fairly? Oh boy. Oh, everybody out there, come on, y'all, let us have it. What do you
Let
think
us
about
know.
this one, y'all? What do y'all think about this one?
Well, I want to bring up one specific one is that, all this talk at the school board about how she wasn't communicative enough with certain school board members. There were literally two school board members who refused to meet or speak with Dr. Fagans. And, some of these are brand new elected people, came in with an agenda and wouldn't even speak to the lady, and then came in and just wanted to derail her, get her out of there. I think that is just the epitome of selfishness, because at the end of the day, she, whether you like her or not, is the leader of our school system and is executing a vision. And so to be so full of yourself that you're not willing to sit down and speak with her about how you all can work together to improve the conditions for kids, that to me is one of the most unfair things that they did to her, was ice her out like that.
Right. Oh my gosh, look at this one. Oh my God. Look at this one. She's 2 years from graduating, but the support she gave, she was actually excited to come in. And just becoming a teacher itself is frightening. That is a frightening thing overall. But when you have a educator or a leader, right? Because she's a leader, because she was a leader who was willing to speak up for
Mhm.
those that she was leading. The people on the school board had a problem with that. So there again, I say, oh, you know what, Stephanie? You know what, Stephanie? I love this one. I love this one because and she was cute all the time. You saw Stephanie. I like that, Stephanie. But at the end of the day, she did not mince words. She stood there and she stood her grounds, and she spoke for what she believed in. So let's just say the challenges that she faced that you believe she was not treated fairly, addressed fairly. It's so many of them with that one.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of good ones are coming in the comments. But 'cause, yeah, people had personal issues with her, and they brought it out publicly. And I think it was nasty. And this insider mentality too, I saw a lot of people posting like, oh, well, maybe almost accusing her as if she was a bad person because she's not from Memphis. Well, they knew that when they hired her.
Mm-hmm.
The finalists were, none of them were from Memphis, and then for people to hold that against her once she got here, to me, just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
I know, and that's what's concerning to me is that no one really just stopped and reevaluated what was going on and actually look at it, because when you have members of the school board who is just refusing to meet with her, that's
Hmm.
concerning. That is really very concerning. That is very concerning to me, right? And
Hmm.
so a lot of people, they need to stop and evaluate the big picture, because at the end of the day, the question becomes, when do the children become important? And we put political aside, we put personal feelings aside, and we put and Noah, you could address that if you want to, or we could just let it go. I know you see that message in the chat. You tell me if you want to bring it up. We're
No, I
gonna
can
let it
answer it. Yeah,
go.
yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
We gotta oh, you want to bring it up? You want me to
Sure.
bring it up? Okay,
Yeah.
so this is one that we got
Can't run away from hard questions.
can't run away from hard questions. All right, let me go back up to get it. My little mouse won't scroll up. Oh, here we go, right here. Let's see it. It says, MS it in the grade. No statements needs to be fact checked. He stated the board meeting that 88% of the teachers supported Fagan. Where did he get that fact and figure from? Okay, first of all, no, can I just say something
Yeah.
before you
Yeah.
answer that?
Sure.
I'm not an educator. I don't profess to be one. I'm a healthcare specialist, and that's what I do every day, all day. And but what I do want to say is I have numerous friends that are educators today and retired educators who said they like Fagan and they want Fagan and they should have not gotten rid of Fagan. So while you're saying, and I'm going to show it again, while you're saying no one needs to be fact checked, so I don't know it. I'm not an educator, so you can fact check me. I can start calling you off some names of some teachers that's saying, hey, this is a raw deal. This is a dirty deal. This is not what's in the best interest of the children. And I think that's where we keep losing focus. That is
Yeah.
where the focus continues to get lost. What is in the best interest of the children, right?
Right.
Here's a fun one. Let's go to a fun question. You ready, Noah? Let's go to a fun question.
Uh-huh.
Here you go.
How would you evaluate?
Oh, oh.
Okay.
This is a fun question.
Um,
This is a fun question.
well, it really depends on the school board member. It seems like she had a great relationship with some of them. But yeah, I think the relationships were strained because like some of them wouldn't even meet with her. Others were trying to sabotage her, before they were even elected. So yeah, I think it was a rough relationship with most school board members. Um, with staff, amazing. People at MSCS love her, and I do want to actually address that last question with this, because the 88% was from a survey that was sent out to teachers. It was initiated by the UEA, the union, but it was answered by more than just union teachers. However, just based on my experience, just like yours, Molly, is that I all my coworkers like her. When I spoke at the meeting, went to school the next day, and all my coworkers were fist bumping me and saying, "Yeah, thanks for speaking out. We like Dr. Fagans." I've met one teacher, and that teacher's not even at my school. I don't know any teachers at my school who don't like her. I know one teacher that doesn't like her, doesn't particularly like her, but doesn't hate her either. So, I mean, I'm sure there's teachers out there who don't. There's the 12%, but yeah. So that's based off of my data that I've just seen in person and from the one poll that I did see, is the 88% a figure.
So check this one. My good friend Daphne, she wants to know: has this experience influenced your influence to change your career?
It's made me think long and hard. I mean, I love teaching. I love the kids. And so when I'm, going back every day and I just like being around my students and the atmosphere. It'd be hard to imagine leaving that over this, but I'm scared, honestly, about what this next administration looks like. I'm worried. Are we still going to see retaliation against teachers who are speaking out for Fagans? Are we going to see a kind of a return to the bureaucracy and the dysfunction that we had before? Because I don't think any of us want that. And um, yeah, I'm not saying I'm going to leave or anything like that, but certainly a lot of teachers have been saying, should we look at the municipalities for teaching? Should we look at I don't know, teaching over an Olive Branch or something? Because a lot of folks are scared about what's going to be happening at MSCS.
Well, I can tell you, my mother-in-law, may she rest in peace, she was an educator, and she was just one of the most sweetest and most humblest persons you ever want to meet.
Hmm.
And I truly believe, knowing her, she would be concerned about what the school board did and the way they did it. But I really want to show this one
Hmm.
because this particular comment leads me something that I say every day at work. It's safe to say that
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built overnight. She was literally pulling, y'all can read that. And in healthcare, I have to have this same statement every day. Rome was not built in a day, and we cannot fix it in a day. But you all didn't even give her enough tenure to make a difference. You all didn't even give her enough time to make a difference. Because there again, I say, you know, I got to go back to that Lean Six Sigma black belt. Yes, the goal is to eliminate waste, what she was doing. However, because there is so much waste that was involved in it, you had to think about, excuse me, you had to think about how is this really impacting the children, because now we have to get a new leader halfway during the school year. I'm just going to say, looking at that guy who they picked for the interim, I really, first impressions is everything. And the
Hmm.
very first impression that I got of Dr. Fagan was optimism and hope and an improvement for the education experience for the children, right? That
Hmm.
was the first impression that I got when I looked at her. When
Right.
I looked at the gentleman who they want to put in replacement that I got for her, my first impression that I got from him was mean, unpleasant,
Yeah.
just not happy, just not willing to understand what's going on. And really, I it, I don't know. I just, first impressions is everything because they go a long way, right? And I
Right.
just not really sure of this. So here we go with question number 6. You ready, Noah? Here we
Ready.
go. While you're looking at this one, I'm going to see if we got some fun chats we want to bring up, right?
Okay. Sounds great.
How would you evaluate her relationship with the school? Oh, what? No, we
Yep.
did that one
Number
already. That's
seven. Yeah.
number 7. Yeah. How do you think the decision to fire her will impact the district in the short term and the long term?
Well, I think these go hand in hand, right? So we just lost the vision that we were moving towards. And right now we are kind of at a lack of a vision. We have this leader who was put in really without the approval of the community. Um, and right now is the time of the year where we start retaining and looking for, filling new teacher positions for next year. This is a recruitment season. And so, as you've already seen in this chat, what happened at the school board is not great for teacher recruitment. You got teachers thinking about leaving, and then it's going to be harder to recruit new teachers because they're looking at, what's happening at the school board. And I think a lot of people say, I don't want to be involved in that mess. So I think in the short term, that makes recruitment season a lot harder for us. And that has long-term effects. I'm worried about the possibility of having a worse teacher shortage next year.
Yeah,
Um, and it's all really going to depend on what unfolds policy wise. But I'm also really worried about this idea of kind of going back to the bureaucracy, going back to having a top heavy system that is really built and designed for those who have the contracts and work at central office and all that stuff, and less focused on what's actually happening in our school buildings. So I don't hope it's like that, right? I wish the best for those that are leading our district. Um, Even though I'm not happy about what's happening right now. Honestly, I support the push to get Fagans back into this seat. And I think there is a real possibility that could happen. There's a lot of chatter going on at the state about, them intervening. There's also this idea that we might be able to have recall elections pretty soon. A bill is going through Nashville. So I would like to get Fagans back, but regardless, I hope that whoever's in charge, in the meantime, do the right things, right? And but I'm concerned, to say the least, about the change in direction.
Right. And that's interesting that you say that, because you did bring up an interesting point that they're putting things in place if it hasn't done already. Because I've been in Nashville working, so I'm a little bit behind. But it's interesting that they're putting a push on to actually have the school board recall.
Hmm.
That is very, very interesting. And somebody said that they're setting up, this is a setup, Ms. Shamika Higgins, that it's a potentially set up for the feds to take over our school system. What do you think about that, Noah? That's a question to you.
It would definitely be the state level that, yeah, I think there's a real possibility the state takes over. And two things can be true at once. The state has been trying to do that for a long time for many different reasons. And so that's a long term agenda of theirs. And the other truth is that what the school board has been doing is almost inviting the state to come in and take over,
Mhm.
right? If we want to say, hey, let's preserve our local control, we got to act right, right? We got to get our stuff together locally and behave professionally, but that didn't happen on any sort of level at the school board. And so it's hard for us to defend ourselves against the state takeover, because a lot of folks in the community, including educators and parents, are saying, well, actually, I think I trust the state more than our local elected officials right now, which is sad. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. Um, I hope whatever happens, that the community is prioritized, and so that nobody's just sticking in whoever they want to push some agenda. I want the community to be engaged in the process. So, if the school board is recalled, or if there's some sort of state intervention, I just want the community to stay centered in that, and that our voices don't get drowned out, so that either the school board could push their agenda or the state could push their agenda, if that makes sense.
Right. So, and y'all know I just got to keep going back to healthcare, because y'all know that's where my real passion lies. But in healthcare, we have this thing that says competent and qualified.
Right.
Competent and qualified, right? So we really have to determine how we look at things, right? So we can say basically that, the school board is competent because, they got they educated people to some degree. I don't know all of them. Hey, y'all
Mostly.
know I'm a big Michelle McKessick fan, so y'all do what y'all want. If y'all don't watch next week, I don't care. But I'm a big Michelle McKessick fan, and I have my reasons why. That's another conversation for another time. But my question becomes is, people are competent, right, to some degree. But the real question is, are they really qualified to be on the school board? Have you ever been a real educator? Do you understand the reasons why these things are done? Do you understand but she said they are allegedly competent, qualified. Do you understand what's in the best interest of the children? Do you understand people? Have you looked in your history books and understood the fact? Because Noah and I have had this conversation earlier. Have you understand and looked in your history books that says the South Education is not important because any state that depends on the land for survival, then therefore that education becomes less important. And that's what happens in the South. We're down here, we're living on the land for survival. The further north you go up, the further up you go, it's cold, it's winter, it's all that kind of stuff. So they don't have any other recourse but to get into education. Why can't we take some of that darn common sense and put it down here and apply some of that basic and start and get away from basic survival skills, right?
Mhm.
Which is survival off the land. When are we going to make these children brain matter? When are we sending this man, sir? When are we going to make this child brain matter? And he said, I'm sending out too much misinformation, sir, Miss MCSC in the gray. What I'm gonna need you to do is I'm gonna need you to read your books and understand. According to research, data shows any the South is contingent upon the land for survival, and the fact that Memphis is one of the lowest states in the country with education proves my point correct. Because if education was important in Memphis, we would not be where we are today, and we would not be having this conversation, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
absolutely. Oh, we got a few minutes left, Noah. So let's try to see if we can get into question number 9, right? Let's see if we got time. In your view, what quality should the next superintendent? Oh, everybody, in
Whew.
one word, everybody who's watching, I just want you to give us one. While Noah's thinking about his answer, everybody that's watching, you only get one word. One word. What do you think while Noah is answering?
Ooh, okay. So the next quality is the next superintendent. So I'm assuming in this scenario, we can't get Dr. Fagans back. That's my number one. But for whoever is next, or Dr. Richmond right now, what I think a real leader would do in this moment is understand the gravity, understand teachers are upset, understand, and be willing to listen. Be willing to listen, like Dr. Fagans, because that was the key to her success. She came in, and the first thing she did was come around and listen to everybody. So if I had some advice for Dr. Richmond, who would like to earn the support of the community as Fagans did, listen to us, come around, come to our schools, be present with us, engage with the kids, engage with the teachers, listen to concerns, prioritize what's happening in our classrooms when decision making, and not if your friends are making money, or whose contracts have been signed, and going back to the way things were. I don't think that should be our mindset. I think our mindset should be being focused on the important stuff, what's happening in our school buildings, the kids, the teachers, the admins, parents. Bring us together and listen.
Right. So let's look at these because you know what? These are some perfect words. So we asked everybody in one question, what should the next superintendent have? Accountability. Well, Fagan tried to do that, but they didn't want to listen to her. But Sean, I like that, right? The next one we have is patience. You
Mm.
have to be patient. Now, mind you, everything that she went through, she had patience because there's no way in the world.
I don't have that level of patience.
There's an old song. You could take this job and shove it. If I was Dr. Fagan, I probably would have been singing that long song a long time ago, right?
Right.
The very next one, commitment to the kids.
Mm.
That we're going to move that one up to the top of the list. The next one says they need to be an educator. They need to understand education and what is important, right? In integrity. That speaks volume. That speaks volume. So Miss Haley Winston says a non-Memphian. You know what, Haley Wilson? Half of me agree with you and half of me don't agree with you because sometimes an outsider coming in, not doesn't quite understand the whole picture, but if you lived here long enough and you've gone through the Memphis school system, then you kind of know what the problem is and you have a direct inside view. I agree with you, but we're going to beg the differ. We're going to do that one on a 50-50. Understanding, right? Understanding the big picture. Do you all understand the big picture? And the big picture is what is in the best interest of the children. Now, this next one, boldness. Noah, you and I both know, and everybody watching knows
Mhm.
that if nothing else, she was bold, she was frank, she was direct, she was in their face, and that is probably what did her more harm than good, even though it was in the best interest of the children, right?
Right.
Oh, we know she was an effective leader. We already know that because the teachers are saying that. You got these people who were sitting in those jobs who were doing nothing for years and years, but all of a sudden, because they don't have that job anymore, they don't like it. They don't like it. But this next one, this is my favorite one. I gotta go with this one. Empathy.
Mhm.
If you don't have empathy, you don't have anything at all. It is a fruitless labor. If you don't have empathy, it is a fruitless labor. You know what? I'm gonna end with this one. Qualified and competent. My two
Mm.
favorite words. But
Yeah.
just in reverse order, Daphne, we say competent and qualified. But Daphne, I agree with you. Qualified and competent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been an awesome evening. We've had a great time. We've had fun. And Noah, oh, wait, be willing to change. You parents want a community staff. The culture has to be changed. If you're from here, you have to understand. The teachers are not saying that. The teachers in the district office want silence. Well, yeah, you know what is silence going to get you? What is silence going to get the children? What is silence going to get the children? What is silence going to get the children, right? This is the last comment that I'm going to share. Then, Noah, I'm going to give you 1 minute to close us out after this comment, right? She was equivalent to a teacher that comes to work every day and does their job in a district culture, couldn't handle her work ethics. Whew! That's some
Mm.
shouting words right there. That is some shouting words right there. So on that, Noah, I'm going to let you take 1 minute and then I'm going to let you close us out.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for all these questions. It was so cool seeing all the engagement and folks just in participating in the conversation, and even the ones who disagree and are being antagonistic. I think it's good to have these conversations to get people's perspectives. I want to thank Dr. Fagans for everything she did for our district, and maybe slash could continue to do in the future. Hopefully, if there's a chance at that. Um, but yeah, I would say to the community, stay engaged at this level. We have so much coming up, the possibility of getting Fagans back, possibilities of recalls, but also let's stay engaged on the issues of making sure that all of our schools have the resources they need, staying engaged. If you have kids in the school, being engaged with your kids' teachers and school buildings. I mean, I think we just have to build a stronger level of engagement. And I'm glad that that's happened through this process, through this really negative process in our community. But I hope we can harness that to keep moving forward and continue to build a better system for everybody.
Right. And now I'm not going to bring this up, but it's very sad for someone to put in the chat that she was incompetent. So, on that note, what I'm going to say, if you feel Dr. Fagan was incompetent, then what you're saying is the school board is incompetent because the school board is the one who hired Dr. Fagan. So be careful what you say because words have meaning, and your meaning saying that Dr. Fagan is incompetent, then you're saying the people who hired her is incompetent, which is the school board. So on that note, we're going to close out. We thank everybody for joining. Go out, like my page, be a fan of my page. Community Health Partners, our goal is to provide access to quality and affordable health care in disinvested communities, but also we want to make sure everybody stay in tune and stay informed. So we will see you next time. Bye. We'll see you
Bye.
in
Love
2 weeks.
y'all.
Bye, y'all.